If you really want to gain velocity in getting people to back you in whatever you want to do, you have to engage them in the process. What we always want to strive for is to exceed others' expectations and not to disappoint people. But what we're also striving for is how to maintain our velocity and how to make sure we're working on the right tasks that move us forward. So the secret to gaining velocity and influence is to engage your audience. Many of us today are feeling out of sorts. We are in a period of flux and not sure of our future. Today is only a point in time in our lives. How we handle this difficult period will impact our overall performance in life. Are you letting this tough moment negatively impact you, or are you using it to create breakthrough thinking on what you want and need to do to win the marathon of life? Now, you're taking some quantified risks which will help you gain velocity. Welcome to Velocity Mindset Success Stories. This is Ron Karr, your host and the author of The Velocity Mindset. We have a great guest for you today. His name is Anthony Iannarino. Now check out his bio. He's a B2B Sales Coach Consultant and keynote speaker. He himself owns several businesses, including a solution staffing company in the Midwest. Does he have a right to teach you about sales? You bet he does, because in those businesses, he has several sales managers and teams who are blowing through their sales quotas. Now, he also has a quite extensive formal education. He attended Capital University, in which he now serves as an adjunct faculty member in the School of Management and Leadership. He also attended the Capital Law School while raising a family, and he also did his MBA at the Harvard Business School. He's authored 3 books. I know his 4th book is coming out shortly, but his last book is The Only Sales Guide You Will Need. His other book was The Lost Art of Closing, Winning the 10 Commitments That Drive Sales, and then also Eat Their Lunch, Winning Customers Away from Your Competition. And get this, he also has a Sunday newsletter that has a subscriber list of over 100,000 people. Welcome, Anthony, to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. I'm glad to be here with you.
Thank you. Now, you know about the book, The Velocity Mindset, because you were kind enough to support us in the launch. And you know that when we define velocity, it's not just speed, because if that's all you think it is, you get burnout. It's really speed with direction, because the direction leads you to the actions you're going to take on a daily basis. From your extensive background in working with leaders and salespeople, what would you say are the top 3 things that rob them of their velocity moving forward in their careers?
Let's go to the Velocity Mindset to talk about this, because I read your book and I wrote a newsletter for that. I sent that out to my audience because it's so good. So let's go to chapter 8, task versus purpose. Okay, so if I had to pick a starting point for leaders, this would be it. Like, this would be the starting point for me. It's easy to get wrapped up in the day-to-day work and of all the tasks that show up and to get into your inbox and all of those things. That's not where the action is. It's purpose. So what's your purpose? Your purpose is to build a high-performing team that can go out and serve your clients. So anytime that you take away with what I would call low-value tasks means you're stealing it from high-value tasks, which is why I liked chapter 8 so much. So, and I also have another favorite chapter from your book. The other one is about achieving alignment. Okay, so if you wanted to know how to ruin a sales force, this would be how to do it. So this is exactly what you need to do, is make sure that you don't get alignment on what you're doing. Make sure that you're inconsistent. Make sure that you're not disciplined about all the things that you need to do, and you can blow up a perfectly good sales force. I've seen it done. I've participated in doing that myself. So I know these things, these lessons that you shared. The other thing that no, go ahead.
When you said you've done it yourself, can you share what that was and how it looked like and how it didn't serve you and how you changed it?
One of the worst things I ever did was decided I was going to pay people a lot of money so that I didn't have to manage them and I didn't have to spend a lot of time with them. It worked out exactly like you would expect, Ron, because the smile already just tells the story, right? It worked out horribly for me. I ended up having to get rid of these people and start all over. And then I realized as a young leader, like it doesn't matter how much experience someone has or how much you pay them. None of those things matter. It's, do you have alignment? Are we going the same direction? Are we pursuing the things that we need to pursue? And it turns out that all of those things are way better than just hoping that you don't have to work very hard.
So when you said it originally, you said we paid them a lot of money and didn't let them go and it didn't work. Did you pay them less money when you started bringing in the people that did work out for you? How did that change at all?
Yeah, sometimes we brought in people who had, Ron, what I would call the character traits, somebody that could learn to be a leader, who had the natural attributes, and that ended up working a lot better. And it turns out that they prefer to be lead. And in fact, if you think about this, everybody wants a leader that's going to set expectations and give them high standards and support them and coach them and help them grow. And once I found out that was the way that it worked, my life got a lot easier. So, it took a lot more time, but it got a lot easier.
Yeah. So when you said people want to be led, right? I think that there's a difference though between being led and micromanaging somebody.
Right.
Can you share how you see that difference?
Well, in sales, the way that we micromanage people is by counting the number of phone calls, counting the number of emails, things that don't matter.
Exactly.
Like you're concerned about outcomes. And the way that I've always thought of this, Ron, is that the financial outcome, if you get the financial outcome, we're all good. If you don't, then I got to look at the outcomes that lead to financial results. And then we'll make sure that you can get those outcomes. If you're not doing any work and you're just not active, you won't be on my team for very long anyway, because my first primary requisite for a salesperson is discipline. Like If you can't make you do the work, I'm not going to chase you around and micromanage you. I'm just going to find somebody who wants to do the work.
Right. Now, there's we shared the story in the book. There's a phenomenon when a top performing salesperson gets promoted, or anybody gets promoted to a new position. Sometimes they don't evolve to the new position. They treat that new position the same way as they did as a high performing sales rep. They have to be the one who saves the day. You know, they got the requirement. Yeah, exactly. But that's not their role now as a manager. How do you help people when you see them being promoted? What do you do, or what do you say to them that helps them make that transition properly?
Yeah, very hard transition for a lot of people. I can tell you, when my team came to me and said, "You're no longer going on large deals with us," and I was like, "What?" I closed the big deals. And like, "We close the big deals without you. We don't need you." And I'm like, "What value do I offer now? Like, what value do I offer?" Well, it's teaching, it's training, in part it's protecting the sales force from the rest of the organization that would pull them into things that aren't sales related. There's a whole bunch of things that you have to do, but you really have to start with what I would call cadence.
But before you get to the cadence, though, you just did something that is the true element that stops people from transitioning. You said, "What value do I have now?" You lived on that addiction, if you don't mind me calling that, saving the day or going in and getting the big deal. Is that a fair statement?
I enjoyed it. I was good at it, Ron. Like, why are you taking me out of this when I show up looking, I'm going to be able to close this deal? And they're like, "We don't need you to close the deal." And then you start to have to check yourself and go like, what value do I create for these people now?
Exactly. So describe how that felt. I mean, the emotions, if you don't mind, because everybody goes through that, but a lot of people don't make it through that transition. That's why I want to spend a couple of minutes on that.
Pissed. That's how I felt. Like, you think you can go do this without me? And sure enough, they could, and they did. And then I had to realize I had to enable them in other ways, and I had to protect them from the organization, and I had to coach them to move up different levels. But there's plenty of work to do. Now, the reason I said cadence is because you're the one that has to do the planning, territory and account planning. You have to make sure the pipeline's healthy. You have to work on big deals where it's going to need more help than a rep could do on their own. So there's still a lot of work to do, but it took me a while to learn that because I was out running around doing a lot of selling.
Right. But I think there was also something else you had to do, and correct me if I'm wrong. You lost that mojo in saying, this was my thing that motivated me, it kept my juices going.
Yeah.
How did you replace that to keep the juices going?
I started to spend more time working on the business and not in the role. So we didn't have territory and account plans. We didn't have the structures. And so that took a lot of time to put in place. And it was a worthwhile endeavor for me.
So the time you saved from flying out to save the big deals, which is what your job was if you were selling, but it wasn't your job right now as the owner or the vice president, whatever position you're in at that time. You use that time to work on the business, saying what processes are we lacking, what do we still need to do, and by putting your time there, that really was, I think, one of the main things that led to the velocity growth of your business. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, 100%. And it turns out that the people that I didn't think were going to be able to close as well as I did are better than me.
Right, but it wasn't just closing. I think what was driving you, like it drove me, was the creativity to find a solution. Is that a fair statement?
So much fun, still fun.
Right, but that's the transition you made. You still are still driven by finding that creativity, the solution. You just did it now on the global scale of the total business versus an account.
Right. And that means you're extending the value you create across a lot larger of a group of clients.
Right.
So your portfolio is a lot bigger because you got people you've helped and trained and grown to the point where you can actually make a bigger impact on more people. And that's leadership, right? That's
leadership. But what it also is, though, is that we're not telling people when you get promoted, stop doing the thing that really gave you the juice. You still need the juice because you are who you are. It's just the juice may have to come in different ways than it used to be.
That's right.
Yeah, great point. What else did you get? You said there was another chapter that you enjoyed.
The other one that I would say, I'm just going back to my memory on this one. There's a segment in there on resistance. Yeah, and so that is when I just look at how difficult it is to lead people. I mean, getting buy-in is so hard, and especially when you don't give it the attention that it deserves. And I think a lot of leaders still, I'm going to try to say this in the most polite terms I can think of. So,
go ahead and say it any way you want.
Autocratic, dictatorial, like it's my way. It's might makes right. There's still some people that think that that's the role. And it's like, you just have to understand right now in America, 40% of people are considering quitting their job, even if they don't have another one. They're not going to continue to be treated the way that they were. And they don't want to do work that they don't enjoy because now the pandemic sort of, like, I had a brain surgery. I got very, very clear on what was important at 25. Now people are having this experience and they're getting very, very clear on what they want their lives not to be. And so you see people making changes and shifts right now because that's true. If you can't,
it's even amped up more with COVID.
Yeah, and if you can't get hearts and minds, you're not going to get velocity. You can't get the velocity without winning hearts and minds.
So one of the things that I see, Anthony, I don't know if you see it when you're with your clients. They're driving. Let's get to business, but there's no celebration. There's no acknowledgement of the great things. And, there's the big acknowledgement. Hey, we closed this big deal. But there's also the acknowledgement saying, hey, great proposal you just did. I love the way you positioned the solution. And it drives me nuts. And I go to the CEOs and I said to one CEO, it was towards the end of the year. I said, did you have a good year? He goes, yeah, we had a great year. I said, great. What are you going to do? He goes, well, we're going to have our dinner celebration. I said, great. What are you going to say to each person? He goes, what do you mean? I said, I want you to go around the room. You only got 10 people in that room and say one nice thing about each person that led to that contribution that year. And he did. He spent the rest of the afternoon thinking about what he was going to say. And when he did it, he actually brought tears to people's eyes. And he was amazed at the impact that it had. And yet he saw that and witnessed it, and he saw the energy afterwards. And yet I still have to, it's like pulling teeth to have him do it again and again and again. Do you observe the same thing?
100%. I'm gonna say three things here if I can. I hope I can remember these three things. So let me start with where you started, which is celebration. I don't want to celebrate the win. I want to celebrate the opportunity immediately. Like we have a big opportunity, that's worth celebrating. Like we created an opportunity that will be great for us and great for the client and great for all the people on both of our teams. Why do you not celebrate that? And I'll tell you why, because I'm a Midwest guy, and in the Midwest, we say, Ron, thank you for doing your job. You know, that's the recognition and gratitude that you get. In a lot of companies, that's not the way that you do this. Like you celebrate every good thing that happens, because there's a lot of negative things that happen in my world in sales. There's a lot of negative things that show up. So you want to make sure that you're doing two things. Recognition is like unbelievably powerful and free. It's all you have to do is go say, I really appreciate the great job you did on this. And somebody's going to be like, bang, that's amazing. They recognize that. And then saying thank you and being grateful. I mean, you have a team that's working for you. You've got to make sure that they understand that you care about them and that you're grateful.
And then they show up, not because they have to, but because they want to.
Right.
Buck Rogers, not the one we see in the movies, but he was the famed vice president of sales in the 40s, I believe, in the 1940s. Anyway, he would have his national sales meetings at Madison Square Garden. It would be filled, 18,000 people. And he'd bring up the top award winners to the stage and give them $1,000 in cash in front of the audience, in front of 18,000 people. And I was talking to him, and he goes, Ron, do you think that those people are really motivated by $1,000 in cash? Yeah, I can give them something and make them have them buy something. That's not what's juicing them at that moment. What's juicing them is that they're up there in front of 18,000 people getting that award. And there have been studies done, that they rate 10 factors, money being one of them, as to why top performing salespeople left their jobs. And there was number 5, the 5th reason. Number 1, lack of recognition and acknowledgement.
Right. I believe that.
And that's not just for salespeople, by the way. It's for plant manufacturing people. It's for customer service. Everybody needs that. They need to know that they're making a difference in the world. And when they know they're making a difference, and when they feel it, and when they're being acknowledged it, well, who doesn't want to get up the next day and go to work? That's the bottom line.
100%.
So why do people not do that? You said from the Midwest, it's not just the Midwest, it's the West, it's the South, it's the East, it's the North. Why are people not getting that? I mean, no matter how much time you and I sit there with CEOs and we tell them, we show them how to do it, they see the results, but yet they go back. In your expertise and experience, what stops people from doing it?
Well, there's nothing that stops them from doing it. It's just that they think, I need to be busy doing this other thing right now, and they don't value it enough. And if you want people to feel like they have purpose and meaning, then you have to instill that purpose and meaning by explaining what it means to them and what it means to the client and what it means to the company. And if you don't say thank you and you don't recognize those things, you're just prioritizing the wrong thing. What does a leader do? So what does a leader do? They lead, right? That's what they do, which means they're interacting with other human beings. And if you want to lead human beings, then you have to lead from that place. I know that the email is overwhelming. I know it. I mean, I think you should probably make rules. In fact, I wrote a blog post this week about rules for good humans. Stop emailing people when you're going to talk to them in 2 hours. Just put it on your agenda. Don't keep filling everybody's inbox up. I just saw a study on where salespeople and sales managers spend their time. Number 1, the inbox. There's nothing in there. The human beings that you need to work with are not in the inbox. You have to go find them. You got to get on the phone. You got to get on a Zoom. You got to get in the car. You got to go to where they are so you can make a difference in their world.
We've done studies for clients that have retained us, and the percent of time that they're actually in front of a customer, which is where the magic happens. It's not in the email. It's not, as you're writing, it's the conversations that you're having, the questions that you're asking. And at best, and this was pre-COVID, at best, whether it's Zoom, whether it's a face-to-face meeting, phone call, at best, a really good score was 24% of their time they were in front of a customer.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's 15, 18, and I guarantee you that hasn't changed that much.
And I guarantee that people put down the answer that they thought was the right answer on the survey. So it's probably a little worse than we think it is.
Exactly. And if you're really there about impacting people's lives and selling, how are you going to do that if you're only doing that 15% of the time?
Yeah, that's exactly
it
right.
It just doesn't show. But you made a point. When I asked you the question, well, what are people doing? Why can't they know they should celebrate? Why aren't they? And you said because they're doing other things. And I think the distinction you just made is really powerful. What are you doing? Are you chasing the deal? Is that what you're concentrating on all the time? Or possibly are you rewarding and motivating people through acknowledgement so that they become the ones chasing the deal and they can chase a heck of a lot more deals than you can personally?
Absolutely. And you know what? The more that you build them to be able to do that, the more likely they are to stay anyway. Like if you're
Right.
not investing in the individual, they're not going to make the same investment in you.
All right, so here's a question for you. Velocity, right? Vice president of sales, a CEO, whatever size company, they want to move the business forward. They got A, B, and C salespeople. A people, top performers, paying, definitely giving a return on investment to their management. B players, a little bit of return on investment, not much, but they're paying for themselves. C players, they're a negative investment, not really happening. They're sucking up the energy of the sales team and then of the sales force. Who do you spend the most time with to gain velocity? A,
Managers.
B, or C?
No, the managers. The managers. Yes. Okay. No, you cannot look at that bell curve and say that the variable is the individual there until you deal with the sales managers. And let me try to tell you a quick story. I got to take a drink of water first, though, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Let's get the name of the brand of water so we can sell it for them for replacement.
Smart water.
There you go.
It seems to be working. I keep drinking it. There's a book called Ender's Game. It's a science fiction book about these little kids who are super, super smart. They're identified as having very high IQs young, and they take them up to space to turn them into military leaders so they can keep off these aliens that have almost taken over the earth once before. The book is by a guy named Scott Card. It's a wonderful book. It's a terrible movie, but it's a wonderful book. So read the book. Don't watch the movie. The movie's disappointing. But at the very beginning of the book, Orson Scott Card, in the introduction, explains where he got the idea. And what he had recognized was that Abraham Lincoln had 4 generals. He had 3 before Grant. The 3 before Grant were failing miserably and losing the Civil War. They were losing. They refused to exercise what I would call managerial will. They did not want to engage with the enemy, and they were timid. And Grant came in, the same army, Ron, same army, same horses, same colonels, same terrain, same enemy, same leader, everything's the same. And very quickly he turns the tide because he engaged with his people like other people didn't and used them to go out and inflict the damage that he needed to inflict to end the war as fast as humanly possible. So the lesson here is that he had the same people. The people did not change. The leader changed. And so I would say if you want to get a better outcome from A's, B's, and C's, change the way that you lead. That's the starting point.
So what did you do with the managers? If you said you would spend more time with the managers, what are you doing with them to change it?
So deep engagement, territory and account planning, pipeline meetings, opportunity reviews, training, meetings that actually have a point. Like, what are we going to do? We're going to learn something new. We're going to take something and we're going to put it in everyone's hands and have them go out and practice this. Like, you have to get engaged with the team. The team is going to be as good as you are as a leader. That's the truth. Like the A, B, and C together, that bell curve is going to get pulled to the right if you pull it to the right. If you don't pull it to the right, it will go to the left.
So you're saying that as you engage the managers to engage the teams better, and help them work on the business with those sales executives to do what's right for the business, the curve will move by itself. The question I have for you, though, is the old saying has been work more with A players because they're going to give you a better return on your investment. The Bs can handle themselves, and the Cs, well, if they really want it, they'll come to you for it. How does that float by you?
How many kids do you have?
I have one daughter, 27.
Okay, so you only have a sample size of one. I have
Right.
three. I have a 23-year-old son. I got twin daughters, and I got a tall twin. I got a little twin. I treated all of them differently. I treated all three of them different. My little one, she's like Trump if Trump was more aggressive. Like that's what she's like. She's in your face. She's a negotiator. She'll change. She'll charm you. She'll do everything she can. Her sister's conflict averse. Not so much anymore since she's been to college. But when the little one would come in and she'd be a little bit grouchy, she might drop the F-bomb or something like that. And then I would just say, "You're such a cute little bug." And then she'd be furious and she'd run out of the room. But her sister would come in and she would be very, very closed down. And so I would yell at her. So the one that needs yelled at, I didn't yell at. The one that didn't need to be yelled at got yelled at because I needed her to get a backbone. And so I treated them all different. You got different people and they need different things from you. So your C needs something different from you than your B or your A, but they still need you as a leader. They still need you. So you can't disengage from them. I think that's terrible advice. I would never tell you to ignore any part of the bell curve.
That was a great distinction you just made. You brought up a story from my own career when I was the number one salesperson in this company. I just closed the biggest deal in the company's history, and it was a company that's been around for a while. And my manager at that time was a young lady who I thought I should have gotten the job. So I had my own issues, why I wasn't in that position. It had nothing to do with she was a lady. And I came back after I just closed a huge deal. And I go into her office, expecting all this congratulations. And the first thing she says is, "What's your next deal?" And I go, "What?" And then there's a guy sitting outside who's 10% of quota. I said, "I just brought in the biggest deal of your life, and you asked me what the next deal is, and this guy's sitting out there with 10% of the quota." And she goes, "Listen, he's so weak right now that if I leaned on him, he'd break like a peanut butter brittle would break. But you're strong. You just closed the biggest deal, like you just said. If anybody's got the venom to go and knock the doors down of another company, it's you. So I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't do this." And I had to walk out there saying, "Okay, there's a reason why she's in that office." and it backs up what you just said. So
treat the person like they need to be treated.
Yeah, exactly.
So I might have been a little bit more heavy on the congratulations on the big deal.
No, she did congratulate me in all fairness, okay? But I wanted it to go a little longer, I guess, before asking me about the next deal.
Yeah, maybe 24 hours, right?
Yeah, give me 24 hours before you start asking me to put. And then, of course, and it goes to the same old thing we all know salespeople do. They close a deal, and what's the first thing they do? They take the afternoon off and go play golf. And it's the worst thing they can do because that's when they're the strongest. And if there's ever a time to gain velocity, is when you're strong. Go out and knock on the next door because you'll take anything people will say, you'll turn it around, and you'll find a reason for them to do business with you. Anthony, believe it or not, the time's coming to an end. This has been a great conversation. I want people to make sure that they get into your universe and they get your wisdom, as they heard just now, on and on and on. So let's give them the link to the newsletter, and let's get you 200,000 subscribers. It's a Sunday newsletter. What do you put into the Sunday newsletter? Just give them a flavor for it, please.
Most of the time, I write something that's kind of personal for me. So I write a blog post every day. I've written a blog post every day. It will be 12 years in December that I've done that. I've kept that practice. It's about 1,000 words a day for me. But on the Sunday newsletter, I try to get more personal and share, some of my experiences, and I try to give people a little bit of wisdom on Sunday so they can hit the ground running on Monday. And a lot of people get it on Monday morning because they're at church when it comes out, and they read it the next day. But it's my best work every week.
And I've read it, and I'm on your list, and I love getting it. So if you really want to be treated to some great personal stories that have points that will make a difference in your lives, you want to go to the salesblog.com/newsletter and sign up. I want to make a little personal pitch also for this week only. Amazon and Apple Books are holding a flash sale for 99 cents only for the Velocity Mindset. So if you want to get the book and you haven't gotten it yet, or you want to get it as a gift for somebody else, please go and get the Kindle version or the Apple version of the ebook, The Velocity Mindset, for only 99 cents for this week. This has been a great session with Anthony Iannarino. Please buy his books. He's got several books. His last one is The Only Sales Guide You Will Need. Anthony, you want to give us a little flavor of the next book coming out?
Ooh, the next one's tricky, Ron. So it's about how you have to have a one-up over your client. Like, you have to know more than they do. You've got to correct their information disparity. You've got to lead them. And I said this earlier, what do decision makers do? They make decisions, right? So you have to be the one that they can trust to help them make those decisions. So this is about becoming that person who can be truly consultative.
I love that, because my last book, The Lead, Sell, Get Out of the Way, is under that same concept. We're not here to sell. We're here to lead people to make the right decision. Right. Anthony Iannarino, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. I've been trying to get you on for such a long time, but you've been so busy. Thank you for gracing us with your presence and your intelligence. And we look forward to reading more from you as your new book comes out. That's been this week's message. Thank you, Anthony. That's been this week's message of the Velocity Mindset Success Stories. Go out there and make it happen. And remember one thing, velocity is not just speed. If that's all you think about it, you're probably going to have burnout. Velocity is speed with direction. Direction being your purpose. Let your purpose drive your actions. Make it a great day.